Next slide.
I'd like to welcome you to Litchfield's School District Deliberative Session. My name is John Regan. I live at 9 Chasebrook Circle. You've met my wife out in front, Patricia. I'm your school district moderator for this evening, or this afternoon, or actually this morning.
That's right.
Mr. Phil Reed, back up in our corner up there, is our vice moderator.
We'll save.
Few administrative concerns. State law prohibits smoking anywhere on school grounds. Please do not light up. Restrooms are located just past the auditorium on your right-hand side. Food and drink, I think we allow water. Otherwise not allowed in the auditorium. As a reminder, it's against school policy to leave flyers on vehicles parked on school property. Please don't do that. We don't have any child care available. There is no music. Before we begin, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Bork to introduce the school board.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take a moment and just introduce everyone who's at our table. First, Tina Harrison, Vice Chair. Tara Hirschberger, Member. Liz McDonald, Member. And Rob Myers, Member. We also have Dr. Mike Jetty, Superintendent of Schools. Corey Isbicki, Business Administrator. And Legal Representative, Attorney Mike Elwell. And Michelle Flynn with the SAU.
Okay. Ms. Couture, could you introduce the Budget Committee?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Cindy Couture. I'm the chair of the Budget Committee. We have Carrie Douglas, who is vice chair, Jennifer Bork, Jess Martin, Brian Hodgkins, Nicole Forty. John Brunell is the Selectman's representative to the Budget Committee, and Rob Myers is the School Board's representative to the Budget Committee, and our minute taker is Michelle Flynn.
Thank you, Ms. Couture. Okay, so our agenda, we'll go through rules, we'll go through each of the articles, you'll have an opportunity to speak to each of the articles, discuss them and so forth, and then we'll close. Litchfield is operating under what is known as Senate Bill Number 2, procedures. This means that our function this evening is to review and discuss the warrant articles that have been presented here today, and for us to vote on by official ballot on Election Day. Election Day will be Tuesday, March 12th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. At Campbell High School down here at the gym. According to state law, town and school district meetings are run by the moderator's rules. This means that the moderator sets the ground rules for this meeting. However, law also allows you to overrule the moderator's ruling by approving a motion to do so by simple majority vote. For this deliberative session, the moderator will read each warrant article and recognize a sponsor to speak about it. Then the moderator will open the floor for discussion. When you come to ask questions or discuss an article at any of the microphones here today, please speak clearly. Please state your name and your address, and then speak right up into the mic. Otherwise, they can't hear you. If a voter wishes to propose an amendment to an article, he or she must have the amendment moved and seconded before it can be discussed. If we make no amendments to these warrant articles, then they'll appear on the ballot as you see them before you tonight. If we do make amendments to these warrant articles, then they'll appear on the ballot as amended. Amendments to warrant articles must be handed to the moderator in writing. You'll note that these pieces of paper in the front here, there's one package for each article, and you can use those to make your amendments and sign and submit to us. Note, an amendment cannot change the primary subject described in the article. The maker of a motion to amend an article will have the first opportunity to speak to it. Each proposed amendment will be brought to closure before any other amendment is discussed. At this auditorium, can I have a hands of all the non-voters in the auditorium? You guys are all school board, right? Or school affiliated, right? Don't vote. unless you're residents, okay? And the rest of you, please don't vote if we come a hand or standing or any kind of vote, all right? All right. As you entered the building tonight, the ballot clerk gave each registered voter a sheet of yes/no ballots. It's pink. Please do not, they're yours in case we call, or there is called a secret ballot for any one of these articles. Please do not drop them on the floor or leave them behind if you leave the building before we close the session tonight. Only those people who are in the checklist as qualified voters are permitted to vote to amend an article. If the moderator receives a complaint or notices a non-voter voting, then we'll ask you to leave the auditorium, so please don't do that. The moderator must conduct a secret yes/no ballot when 5 voters make a written request prior to a voice, hand, standing, or division vote on any article. The moderator must conduct a secret yes/no ballot when 7 or more voters challenge any vote to amend an article immediately after the vote is declared by the moderator and before any other business is begun. Approval of all warrant article amendments at the deliberative session shall be by simple majority vote. A voice vote will be the primary method of voting. If the moderator cannot distinguish a clear majority with a voice vote, then a vote of hands or standing will be taken. Active campaigning for your favorite warrant article handouts, standing with signs, is allowed in the hall outside the auditorium. Active campaigning within the auditorium other than to discuss an article when invited to do so is prohibited. The deliberative session is a forum at which we ask questions. More importantly, it's a place for debate. Proper decorum and respect will be expected at all times. Every effort will be made to give recognition to all wishing to speak. If you want to speak, then you must come to one of the microphones in the front of the room. Board members, you're asked, if you're speaking as a board member, discussing an article, you may remain on stage. If you're offering your own opinion as a citizen, then please move to the floor microphones. All those who speak are to keep their remarks pertinent to the motion. No negative motions will be in order. No personal attacks will be permitted. No profanity will be permitted. All speakers will direct their remarks to the moderator. When a question is asked, the moderator will call upon the appropriate person to respond to that question. The moderator will allow one follow-up question when others are waiting to speak and will not allow running discussions. A motion to call the question and stop discussion must be properly seconded before it can be considered. Voters who speak to an article may not immediately call the question in order to stop discussion about it. A motion to table an article will not be in order unless it is to table until a specific time and place before the close of this meeting. A motion to consider to restrict reconsideration of an article after discussion is closed will not be in order unless seconded and approved. Reconsidered articles must be discussed and closure reached before the end of the meeting. A motion to adjourn or recess will not be accepted until all warrant articles have been discussed. Members of boards and committee members are voters who will refrain from using acronyms since we cannot assume that everyone knows what acronyms mean. About halfway through our meeting this evening, actually it's after article, just before the petition article, we'll open the floor for anyone interested parties to discuss material other than what's on the ballot, notes of thanks or awards, what have you, will be discussed at that time. Okay. The first point of order. It is your prerogative to permit non-voters to speak at this meeting. It has been customary to allow employees, council, and non-registered residents to speak at these meetings. If it's your wish to continue to do so, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Our ballot boxes are back there. We are ready to begin. So, Article A is an easy one, to elect by ballot the following school district officers. School board member, 3-year term. School board member, 3-year term. Any discussion? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as written. Article 1. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and any other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote at the first session of the annual school district meeting for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $22,865,429. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $22,865,429. $824,871, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Litchfield School District or by law. Or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Section X, Section 10, and Section 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. The estimated tax impact is 36 cents. The estimated tax for the operating budget is 36 cents. The estimated tax impact for the default budget is 34 cents. This is recommended by the school board 500, and it's recommended by the budget committee 620. Ms. Cindy Kishore, would you come speak to the article?
Thank you. So the Budget Committee received the a proposed budget from the school district in November. We were presented with a overview of district goals and enrollment projections, and also looked at revenues. We had a review with every department, bringing in department heads over 3 meetings throughout the month of November. And then on November 29th, we made all of our decisions in one meeting. So if you want to take a look at that YouTube video or look up the minutes to that meeting, you can see all the discussion. And we ended up making a $240,000 reduction in the proposed budget. So we look at the history of actual spending. So we typically use a 3-year average. Again, we look at the goals that the district presented to us. We look at what the year-to-date spending is of the current budget. And we consider what the rationale is if there's any additional spending above what the history is. We take into account why the money is being requested. This year, and actually for the last couple of years, the school district has also had to deal with the loss of revenue from the state in reduction in adequacy aid. And then we consider what would be a reasonable budget to bring before the voters. So the school district brought a budget that was $443,546 more than last year's approved budget. That would have been a tax increase of 63 cents. This also reflected a 4%, hold on, something's up. There we go. This also reflected a 4% reduction in the stabilization grants from the state. We are now at 84%, and they're slowly phasing those out so we can look forward to each year coming that we'll see more and more of a reduction in state aid. Just that reduction in state aid has a 24-cent impact on that total tax rate of 36 cents. So the Budget Committee's recommended budget is still a little over $200,000 more than last year's budget. That recommends less than a 1% increase. And again, that less than 1% increase will have an impact of 36 cents. And the default budget decreases that by another 2 cents. So areas that had an impact on this year's budget. Salaries and benefits, $486,000. We had some retirement payoffs, $52,049. Our dental insurance saw a slight increase. Teacher retirement saw an increase. The New Hampshire employees' retirement actually saw a decrease. Health insurance increased 1.7%, but because of a one-time credit, the actual total was a slight decrease in our health insurance costs. This year and last year, for the first time, we've had very small health insurance increases. It's been a nice change. We have seen some increased enrollment at Griffin Memorial, so there's some additional staff that's being requested and some additional supplies. In looking at all the individual accounts, Every single account is down except, as I said, at Griffin Memorial, they're seeing an increase in population, and our transportation was due to increase, but there's been a renegotiated contract, so I believe later on there'll be a motion to reduce some of the transportation costs. So the Budget Committee's action, we looked at the Special Services Transportation and made a reduction there, and that was based on history. What the Special Services Department does is they take a look at, I guess what you would call worst-case scenario, is based on the students today, what are we going to plan to spend next year? What often happens is when next year comes, through combining some transportation routes, they're able to actually come in a little bit under budget. So historically, based on history, we took that reduction. Co-curricular salaries, again, this is based on vacant positions within the different programs and looked at history. Athletic salaries, again, based on history. Salaries and benefits. Generally, what happens in many years is through attrition, the salaries and benefits come in, again, with a cost savings. You might bring in have a teacher retire, you bring in a newer teacher that has less years teaching, they come in at a lower salary, so there's some savings there. So on average, we see a 1 to 2% savings in our salaries and benefits. So we took a small reduction there, $174,000. The other reductions that did not pass, that were not supported by the majority of the Budget Committee, were some additional reductions to special services, curriculum development, technology, and specifically Chromebooks, some supplies, and transportation. And again, the transportation proposed cut was due to the pending change in the bus contract. So now that has been, there's some solid numbers, there will be a proposal today to reduce that. So the recommended budget, as I said, comes in at a 36-cent tax impact. That would be $124.30, increase on a house valued at $350,000. The default budget is 34 cents. And this is just a worksheet showing you the impact of all the potential warrant articles as they stand right now. Based on the recommended articles only, the Budget Committee has not recommended the teacher contract. Just on the recommended articles, that is estimated to be a $147 increase on a house valued at $350,000. If all articles should pass, that would be 86 cents or almost $300 tax increase on a house valued at $350,000. So at this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Further discussion on Article 1?
Ralph Bohm, 6 Gibson Drive. Also, your state rep, I just want to make a comment on the adequacy aid. Those remember in 2007, the existing formula was put in place whereby Litchfield was going to lose $2 million. And those remember why not to vote for 2 million reasons why not to vote for somebody. But we put that back in 2011. The problem with putting it back was we said we were going to reduce that 4% every year for 25 years. And that's called the stabilization, and that's what mentioned about that money's going away. There's a bill this year, and I sit on the Education Committee, to stop the stabilization loss and keep it the way go back to 2016 and keep it to that level. There's also 10 other bills on education funding. So whether or not we get money or not depends on how the spreadsheets and how that's done is somebody comes up with the formulas, and everybody looks to see if their school district is going to lose or make money, and if they don't make money, they're not voting for it. So that's one of the problems. There is due to the decrease in the state overall on student population, the Education Trust Fund has a balance, and somebody wants to spend that money on something else, I'm going, wait a minute, let's distribute it. So we're working on the funding, and hopefully, at least in the short term, the stabilization may go away, so we won't lose that money. But as overall funding, we may or may not get more money. So we're working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion on Article 1.
Bill Spencer, Cranberry Lane. Could you tell me what the projected enrollments are for each one of the three schools in kindergarten for this budget? How they differ?
Well, they'll be pulling that up, and I can get that for you in a moment.
I'm sorry, Brian.
I don't have it off the top of my head, so I'll have someone pull it up, and then I'll give you those numbers. Enrollment for next year?
I'd like to know what the enrollment changes are at the three schools for next year versus today.
All right.
I have what the Budget Committee was given. So in next year, 1920, at Griffin Memorial, 351 students, 2021, 359 students, and 21-22, 384 students. The middle school, 378 students in 1920, 364 students in 2021, 363 students in 21-22. High school, 421 students next year, 410 students in 2021, 373 students in 21-22. So the estimated total population, 1,271, 1,254, 1,241.
Cindy, you spit that out so fast, and I don't get it that fast.
Yeah.
Could you tell me what the differences are, whether they're up or down in the three schools?
At GMS, they're up. At LMS, they are down by about 10 students, and at the high school, they're down by about 20, actually about 40 students.
Last, high school again?
High school, about 40.
Okay. And were there any changes in teachers at the high school in this budget?
40 is over 3 years, so next year, there's not that drop. There's a 18 drop next year. So no, there were no reductions in teachers at the high school.
In this budget, are there any changes in teachers at the high school because of the drop in enrollment?
They're dropping 18 students, so we did not make
Okay.
any reductions.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Article 1.
Yes. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make an amendment to Article 1.
Okay.
The thing that'll change is the total budget dollars from $22,865,429 to $22,849,638. The reduction is in part, we've just,
Let's get a second to that motion.
Right.
You have a second over here?
the reduction is mostly in part for, we just received our bus contract, haven't signed the contract yet, but it's approximately 3% less than last year, so that reflects the difference.
Further discussion on the amendment to Article 1 to change the current total budget amount from $22,865,429 to $22,849,638. So 865 down to 849, yeah. Thank you, sir. Further discussion on the amendment as proposed? Hearing none, I'd like to take a vote. All in favor of the amendment to reduce the total budget from 22,849,638 to 22,824,871? No, I'm sorry, I have it wrong. To reduce from 22,865,429 to 22,849,638. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Further discussion on the amended Article 1? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as amended. Article 2. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Litchfield School District and the Litchfield Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level? For the year 2019 to 2020, an estimated increase of $394,429. For 2020 to 2021, an increase of $374,294. For 2021 to 2022, there's a mistake there, you see. It should be 2021 to 2022, estimated increase of $346,391. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $394,429 for fiscal year 2020, such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. The estimated tax impact is 43 cents. This is recommended by the school board 5-0-0. It's not recommended by the budget committee because of a tied vote 4-4-0. Mrs. Christina Harrison to talk to the article.
As soon as I can find my slides.
As soon as she can find her slides.
Yeah. This is not going to have updates.
Because it is wherever she comes. So, I mean, we can take a minute to sign into Google and pull it up that way, but it'll take a second.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
I think I know. Is that all right?
Yep, so let's do it.
Okay. I'm sorry. We're going to have to Google and bring up my slide deck from Google Slides. It'll just take a moment. But you won't be sorry.
Jason!
This is what I'm going to do. Go get your laptop.
Oh, hi, Jason. No.
Okay, how do I make this show up? There it is. Beautiful. Yep.
We have a question from the guys from the paper. No, we've closed it already. We're on to Article 2.
Sorry. Sorry
We
again.
can catch you later.
You want to show the notes?
Yeah. Does that show up?
So what the heck? I think you got it, because any of your notes will show up there. So you should be set to show up.
Okay. But it's also showing.
Yeah, but no, notes on these, right? No, see, there's your notes there.
Yep. Yep. But those are also showing.
Oh, God.
It's okay. I'll get my computer and read from the notes from that.
How we doing?
Super. All right. Sorry. Thank you for waiting. I appreciate it. Yep. Because I'm short. Thank you. All right. So Article 2, the LEA Collective Bargaining Agreement. The LEA negotiation team consisted of 2 teachers from each of our 3 schools, and their representation, Lori Hayes. The school board team was myself, Tara Hirschberger, Mike Jetty, Holly Messenger, our our human resources guru, and our representation was Mike Elwell. So starting out, the school district had two main goals. The first goal, which is kind of always our first goal. Oh, teamwork.
You do that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm on 7. Okay, great, thanks. Sorry. This is not my wheelhouse. I'm sure all of you teachers out there could have this banging, no problem. So goal 1 is always, our main goal is to attract and retain excellent teachers. Goal 2 was to change to a consumer-driven healthcare plan. Goal 2 has been a goal of our district at the request of the Budget Committee and our taxpayers for several years. We've been continuing to bring it to the table, and this is the first time that we are able to reach a compromise on that. So I feel a victory there. But I'll explain more about that later. So let's talk about goal 1. How do we attract and retain excellent teachers? We have kind of a three key areas to keep us competitive. The first one is the bottom one, to maintain a competitive salary scale. If we're looking to hire quality teachers, we want our salaries to be on par with other quality districts that they might be looking at applying to. The second tier, the middle step there, is restoring steps that were missed in 2012 and 2014 because of contracts not passing and other factors. We have a number of teachers whose level on the pay scale does not equal their years of experience. So there's a gap. I'll go into that a little more deeply in the next few slides. At the tippity top of our pyramid is to increase longevity payments for our most experienced teachers who are at the tippity top of the pay scale. So these are teachers who have taught in our district for 15 to 19 years or 20 years and beyond, and they've reached the top of the pay scale, so they're not subject to getting another step every year on the pay scale. The longevity payment is a yearly stipend that they receive instead of moving up further on the pay scale. So I'll go into each of those different key areas on there separately. So key 1 was to maintain a competitive salary scale. This is what our current salary scale, this is what the 2019-2020 salary pay scale looks like. This is what will be included in the contract if it passes. So you can see it's kind of confusing if you're not a teacher and don't have a lot of experience with this. So I've highlighted the B section, the B column in blue, the M in red, and the M plus 30 in yellow. These are kind of the beginning, the middle, and the end of a teacher's career, if you will. So each of those columns, I'm going to call them lanes, is for the amount of the degree that you have and the amount of credits you have towards your next degree. So at the B, if you're on the B scale, that means you have a bachelor's degree. The next scale up is a B plus 15. That means you have a bachelor's degree and you've taken 15 course credits towards getting a master's degree. So that's how we delineate those things. I've highlighted the B, the M, and the M plus 30 because, again, they kind of represent the beginning, the middle, and the end, the lowest, the middle, and the highest. So I can translate that chart and take that chart and compare it to what we've determined to be our peer cohort. So in 2018, the school board decided that in order to make comparisons across districts, it's hard for us to say, well, we do this, but Hudson does this. We do this, but Concord does this. So in order to kind of establish a group of school districts that we can compare across, for all kinds of data, we established this peer cohort. We used location. So these are districts, some of them that surround Litchfield, because this is where teachers who live in Litchfield might be looking to work. Similar size, so we did not include any unified school districts or regional districts, just one district, one town. Their achievement level. So these are towns that either we feel like we're on par with. And we've also included some towns that their achievement and their state ranking are where we want to be. So we can follow those trends and kind of align to make the same kind of gains that those districts have. So if I take the salary scale and we plot it in this handy-dandy chart, you'll see the blue bachelor's line is at the bottom. So across the bottom of the screen are the towns in our peer cohort. Litchfield is in the green box in the middle. So you can see on the B line, that blue column from our salary chart, we're pretty much right in line with where we need to be within our peer cohort. The master's is a master's plus 7 credits. Again, we're right in the middle. There's some distinct variation at that level, and there's even more variation at the top level. But for our purposes and for my purposes today, I'm going to focus on the blue line down at the bottom. So from those charts, we have steps. So when I hear step, I think of a staircase. So I drew a staircase. Our steps in Litchfield we have 15 steps. Step 15 is the top of our pay scale, is the top of our salary scale. So I made 15, yes, I counted, steps. So in our district, when we hire you, every year that you've worked here, you move up a step. And those steps go up the chart and there's in those 6 different lanes that we talked about. So the blue lane, the red lane, the yellow lane, you start at the bottom and you work your way up the steps. So to stay competitive, we are looking at year 1, the teachers on the salary scale will move their step. There will, and there was no, we agreed upon a 0% cost of living increase the first year. Year 2 is step plus a 2% cost of living increase. So all of those squares on our salary scale will be increased by 2%, and then the same increase in 3%. And we feel like this keeps us on par with our peer cohort. We're seeing trends, and as their contracts come out, and as they, we do more digging, we're finding that we're right on par. We're right where we need to be, right in the middle. So step 2, so you're going to see some more staircases. Step 2 is the middle chunk of our pyramid, and we heard from the LEA representation that it was very important to them that we look at restoring steps that were missed in 2012, 2014. So those are years, for whatever reason, a contract doesn't pass, teachers did not receive steps. So what happened was there's this inequity with how many years of experience our teachers have and what step level they are on. So in this case, I have a teacher on step 7. So this teacher he was hired down at the bottom at step 1 and has received a step every year. This teacher has a bachelor's degree, just to keep it simple with the blue line at the bottom of that other chart. But because he's taught in our district for 10 years, and he's on step 7 because of those lost years between 2012 and 2014. So in our next slide, this causes some issues. This is one scenario in which we see a wage gap and why that's a problem. So let's say the district hires the colleague with the same 10 years of experience. So this guy on the bottom step, I've zoomed into the staircase. The guy at the bottom step is still on step 7 after teaching 10 years. The district hires a colleague that has 10 years of experience. When we hire new teachers, we consider the years of experience that they have put in other districts. So we hired that teacher on step 11 to start the next year on step 11. So the new colleague begins the next school year on step 11. The salary for the new teacher is $52,784. The salary for the Litchfield teacher, who's going to get a step for the year, this past year that they've worked, they'll be starting the year on step 8 next year. Their salary is $49,799. So that's a wage gap for the same amount of experience, but the teacher who stayed in Litchfield is making $2,985 less. So that's in one area that we feel the need to restore these steps. Keep in mind that the new teacher coming in is going to be going to this existing teacher and asking, okay, what do I do with my morning mail? And who do I see if I need to ask a question about this? And what's the policy on this? And how much homework do we give? And so all of that institutional knowledge that our Litchfield teacher has built up over those 10 years, that teacher is now sharing that information with this new teacher who's making more money. So you can see how it might cause a little rift in our colleague relationships. This is another scenario that we've seen a few times in the past few years, leaving Litchfield for another district. So the same teacher with 10 years of experience next year would be on our step 8, making $49,799. If this teacher decided to leave Litchfield and go teach in another district, he could go to Bow, which I chose because on that peer cohort list, they're right at the same level as we are on the bachelor's lane. So their pay scale is comparable to ours, and they're close enough by that the commute to Bow isn't terrible. But he could move to Bow and be placed on step 11, getting all of those years of experience, credit for all those years of experience, and be making $6,593 more just for switching districts. So in effect, what's happening is we're motivating our teachers to look elsewhere. Because we are behind on these steps, we're not giving credit for experience in district. We feel that restoring those steps will make a difference in keeping and retaining our excellent teachers. We won't be losing them to somewhere else. So the new contract would restore this teacher's steps that he missed in 2012 and 14. So he would begin next school year on step 11, which would be the right number. His years of experience would equal his steps on the scale, and that creates a greater wage equity. Let's see. So the top of our pyramid is to increase longevity stipends. So in Litchfield, our top step is 15. So teachers go up the staircase until they reach step 15, and then they fall off the cliff. No, I'm just kidding. They don't. They don't do that. That would be cruel and unusual, and we wouldn't want to do that to our longtime teachers. Instead, what happens is teachers who have taught in Litchfield their last 5 years of experience, once they reach 15 to 19 years, they receive a stipend. Because they're not getting the step increase every year, they receive a stipend. Currently, the stipend is $1,500. The new contract language increases that to $2,500. Teachers that have 20 years of experience, the last 5 with Litchfield, their stipend will increase $2,500 to $3,500. And so I think we looked at it, and what the highest, if we were consider those, if we were to extend the staircase instead of falling off the cliff, I think the teachers on our highest step would be at 36, which is pretty amazing. We have some really dedicated long-term teachers here, and that's just amazing to me. So what do we lose when we lose a teacher? So if we don't make these changes, teachers are looking elsewhere because they can make more money. We lose more than just a teacher. And I say just a teacher because I know none of you are just a teacher. I know personally how many of you put in that extra time and what a credit you are to our district. But we lose the hours and funds that we've put in for professional development. Teachers are required to earn 75 to 150 credit hours every 3 years. So this breaks down to about 25 to 50 hours of professional development every year that our district invests in our teachers. Mentoring, we have teachers who when the new teacher does come in, we spend hours, and there's a stipend for teachers that mentor incoming or younger teachers. So we lose that knowledge. College credit reimbursements that the district covers for teachers. We lose the personal materials that I know a lot of you bring into your classroom to make it your classroom. The knowledge of our curriculum, our programs, our materials, and our organization, how things work in Litchfield, what you can expect. All of that goes out the window when we lose one of our longtime teachers and replace it with someone new. And most important of all, I think, is the relationships that these teachers have built with students, families, one another and within our administration. So we're taking steps to make sure that we make Litchfield a destination district where teachers want to stay for a very long time. So back to our second goal. Goal 2, as I mentioned earlier, Goal 2, I think has been broken down into the switch from green to yellow. So what does that mean? The district has been trying to cut costs in our health care benefits for as long as I've been on the board. I know it's been longer than that. We were seeing yearly increases of 8, 9, 10% on the green plan. And so we realized that the time has come, the nationwide trend has shifted the other way, and most people have a consumer-driven healthcare plan. So we contacted our health benefit group, and they came to us with this kind of a breakdown. So the current plan our teachers have, we call the green plan. It's a zero deductible healthcare plan. There's a $30 copay for office visits. The premiums are $9,945, and we currently pay 82%. So the cost to the member is about $1,800 out of pocket. The cost of the district is actually not out of pocket. That's paid out of their paychecks. So that's deducted from their paychecks to pay for the premiums. It's been a great plan. It is excellent coverage. Basically, everything is covered. Our teachers can go pay a copay, and they're good to go. So it's a high-cost plan. It does fall under the designation for a Cadillac plan, which in 2022, we're coming up against the excise tax, which would be, the district would be responsible for 40% of the difference between what's considered the cost of a Cadillac plan and a base rate that the government, I think it's like a $10,000 base rate or something. So anyway, we're up against the excise tax, which would be a huge, huge cost to the district. We don't want to put that onto our employees, as we know they don't have the money. They don't make enough money to absorb that cost, so that would be on the district. So we've decided that the yellow choice does have a deductible. So what we expect will happen, is that teachers will be more responsible for their healthcare dollars. So instead of saying, I've got a sore throat, not that any of you do this, but I used to have a plan like this, and this is how it went. So my kid has a sore throat, I'm going to take her to the doctor, and we're going to pay $20, and she's going to get a strep test, and she's going to get a full physical exam, and they're going to order labs and do blood work, and I pay $20 for all of those services. Well, instead, on the yellow plan, and this is what's happened in our family, is my daughter gets a sore throat now, and I wait to see if she gets a fever. I wait to see if it gets worse, and then I can go to the doctor if she needs a strep test, and we get that. We pay a percentage of that towards the deductible. And then once we reach our deductible, we pay 20% of all medical and hospital services beyond that. Most of the time, we don't reach our deductible. For my daughter, anyway. For me, it's a different story. But it's a completely different switch in thinking in how you're using your health care money. I think it encourages people to be a little more thoughtful about what things cost, and make decisions about, well, if I go to this doctor, I know the same lab work is going to cost this much, but if I go to this doctor instead, which you can still do under the yellow plan, they only charge this much. So it gives you more power in your control over your healthcare dollars, and the premiums are lower, so that the employee experiences a saving and the district experiences savings. However, it is a really hard switch to make. Healthcare is a really tough issue, and we fully understand that. So in order to kind of help ease that transition, the district has agreed to pay 89% rather than our 82%. So the first 3 years, we don't expect to see much of a savings other than usage might go down. And if usage goes down, then our rates go down. The thing is, though, over time, we do expect to save potentially millions by being on a consumer-driven plan as opposed to the Cadillac Green Plan. So we appreciate the teachers taking this concession, and there are added benefits to it too. So School Care, who is our organization, healthcare organization, estimates that 70% of districts and towns are on yellow. So the way the national trends are going, the way that school trends and municipal trends are going, a deductible plan is the majority of users are on a deductible consumer-driven plan. There will be the same incentives for healthy lifestyle choices as there were on the Green Plan, which will help offset some of the fees and costs incurred by the teachers. We expect lower rates over time. We will avoid the Cadillac tax in 2022, which could be dozens of thousands of dollars on the district. And like I said, it gives better control over healthcare dollars. So the first year of the teacher contract, we're looking at a cost of $394,429. And that is based in the step movement and the makeup steps, making up the steps for teachers to be more equitable with their experience, and the longevity increases. Step 2 is $374,294, so that's a step, and the 2% cost of living increase across the salary scale. Year 3 is the step, and then an additional 2% cost of living increase for an estimated $346,391. These year 2 and year 3 were calculated using current usage for the healthcare plans and current staffing levels. So there is some leeway if we need more teachers, need fewer teachers, teachers opt for a different health plan, that sort of thing. So those two numbers we can't really predict at this moment, so these are estimates. Also included in the contract is some positive, we think positive change in the contract language. We've changed the the language about the school opening date to say that students will begin school no earlier than 5 days before Labor Day, rather than if it's on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, we'll start before. If it's the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th, we start after. Did I say that correctly? The other way around. Okay, so if Labor Day is the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, we start after Labor Day. If it's the 4th, 5th, or 6th, or 7th, we start before. So we feel this will enable us to start school earlier in the year so that we can get out earlier in June. We defined the workday for teachers. There was some convoluted language in the current contract, so we just cleaned that up, and we added a provision that teachers will need to be, part of their workday is at least 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after students leave, so that we have teachers who are here and ready to start their day as soon as students arrive, and that teachers are available for students at the end of the day as well. The contract includes a review of our co-curriculars and stipends. Mrs. Kuchar indicated that they made some drastic cuts to our stipend pool. We're going to review all of the stipends and clubs and activities and co-curriculars and see what's being used, what's not being used, what can be phased out, what new clubs might interest more students, kind of streamline that process and increase the co-curricular stipend pool by 2% in years 2 and 3. And then we agreed on more flexibility with the 186 days in the work year. Mike, do you want to speak on that? No, not right now? Okay. So, when we consider how much we invest in our teachers, the professional development, workshops, conferences, courses, mentoring, and support, and we consider how much our teachers invest in Litchfield, it seems like approving this we consider this to be a very fair, very equitable contract. Approving this contract is an investment in our teachers and in our students, and we ask for your support. Any questions?
Further discussion on Article 2? Yes, sir.
In regards to your peer
Can you state your name and address, please?
Brian Hodgkins, Grouse Lane. So in regards to your peer cohort, you you list all these towns. How many businesses do they have? Litchfield has, according to Google, has 515 businesses. The closest one, you gave an example for Bow. They have 1,150 businesses, double ours. So when you're talking about raising taxes, these other towns, I mean, you use Bedford. They have 4,249 businesses. It's a lot of business tax versus personal tax. So just keep that in mind when you guys are voting on these things. It affects me, it affects all these other taxpayers, because we don't have businesses to offset these taxes.
Further discussion on Article 2?
Ralph Baumsick, Gispin Drive, and just a quickie on your start date. If some of you may heard, there's a bill in the House to change the start date to make sure it's after Labor Day, and that's being pushed by different resorts. But anyway, I think that in our committee, Education Committee, we said no, local control, and I think that'll take care of that.
Thank you for bringing that up. This is something that we've been working on for the past few contract negotiations, and, we made the joke that, we finally got, we finally reached agreement on it, and then the governor is working to undo that. But thank you for that input. We'll see how it goes.
Further discussion, Article 2.
Betty Vaughn, 19 Suck Lane. I'm just kind of wondering if the Budget Committee can change their vote on the saying yes or saying no, like
Recommendation.
after this meeting, or how that works. Just because I think that we just need to be looking forward to what's going to happen in the future and attracting people to our town and so forth. And I think right now, the teacher contract is looking like it's not going to save us money, but I just really feel like in the long run, we should be looking at supporting our teachers. And, in my family, that's really what made my son successful in school is the teachers. And, I think something to think about. I don't know if it's possible to change.
So you're asking the Budget Committee to do something? You want a response from Ms. Couture?
So the contract that you see before you is one that was negotiated between the school board and the teachers. In order for any of that to change, it would have to go back, and the school board and the teachers would have to renegotiate some number. That, unless that number changes here, in what I just explained is it can't change here, the Budget Committee cannot reopen an article that we've already voted on, so that 4-4 would have to stay the same.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on Article 2?
So I guess that kind of answers
Can
my
you
question.
state your name,
too.
please?
Sorry. Janine Inkdell, Tanager Way. I also wanted to plead the Budget Committee to reconsider their vote and reopen it at your meeting later today to reconsider endorsing that article. I'd like to just make my points about why, even if it's not something you're able to do. I thought you were able to do it. The teachers have compromised on the insurance plan, switching over to a consumer-driven plan in the new contract with a higher out-of-pocket expenses, deductibles, co-insurances. This is a big shift for the teachers. It has been a high top priority for the teachers for a very long time, long before I was at Litchfield. They have been keeping top-notch insurance plans as their highest priority, and they've given up other things in many rounds of negotiations, compromised many other things to try to keep that insurance plan. Understanding that there's a probable large tax coming to the district if we keep offering this green plan, and understanding that this is the way, outside of our little Litchfield world, the way it is going for most people's insurance plans, the teachers did compromise on making that shift. And I want to acknowledge and thank the board for recognizing what a large compromise that is and what a difficult transition it could be for teachers and their families. And the board, in recognizing that, did offer to pay a higher percentage of the premium cost to try to ease that transition, try to soften the blow. And I appreciate the board recognizing that negotiations are a give and a take. If they had not made that offer, I don't think we would have a contract that's agreed on to put in front of the voters, because there's still a lot of teachers who are very upset about having made that compromise, because that was a top priority for a very long time. I know there's a lot of townspeople that think the Litchfield teachers have had a cushy insurance for way too long, the rest of the world does not have that. I get that. And like I said, there's a reason they've had that. They've given up a number of other things for a long time. And this is why they did eventually compromise on shifting to this yellow plan, the consumer-driven plan. I want to give you just a quick case scenario of how difficult it can be to shift the way you plan your family dollars, the way you do your family budgeting. Several years back, I was on the Litchfield plan with zero deductible, very little out-of-pocket cost. I switched to being a part-time math tutor and had to we had to switch to my husband's insurance, which was very similar to the insurance plan being offered in this new contract. And we had the most high needs medical need that we've ever had for that year. And we hit our out-of-pocket maximum twice within 3 months span because the insurance year reset itself in the middle of that those unexpected medical expenses. And I worked for a year in Litchfield as a math tutor, and every single dollar I brought home went to the medical expenses. And so I realize there's ways to budget and plan for that. We have an FSA being offered. But it's a shift in thinking. It's a shift in how you run the family to be prepared for those unexpecteds when you have a higher out-of-pocket insurance. And asking the Litchfield teachers to make that shift is a big thing to ask. And so the Litchfield School Board offering to ease the blow by paying more of the insurance premium, I think it was a very important part of that compromise and those negotiations. And so I think this was the point that caused the Budget Committee to not endorse this contract, and that's going to show up on the ballot and print. And I think that little sticky point of how much we're contributing to the premiums should not be the reason that we have a whole town of teachers going without a contract next year. And so I also wanted to implore the Budget Committee to reconsider that vote. Apparently you can't, but I wanted to still say my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion, Article 2. Yes, sir.
William Barrett, 53 Pilgrim Drive. Can we hear from the Budget Committee more substantiation of the 4-4 vote? Some of the reasoning for the no votes? Just some more background. We heard from the school side the support of the 5-0. Can we hear some discussion around the reasoning specifics for the 4-4 vote? Thank you.
So there were 4 no votes. I can tell you my own feeling, and then I can certainly ask the other 3 members to come up and explain their rationale. One, I've been involved for about 20 years, first on the school board and then on the Budget Committee. And I know one of the biggest hits, the majority of those years, are healthcare costs. When we get hit with a 20% increase, and that really messes up your budget, because now you are required by contract to make that increase, means you have to reduce somewhere else, or you have a huge tax increase. So it's been a struggle for a number of years, the out-of-control healthcare costs for the district. There's been a goal over time to change that percentage, and the town was able to negotiate 80%, 20%. So the town now is down to only paying 80% of their health care costs, and the employee pays 20%. As far as I've known, that's been a goal of the school district as well. This last contract got it down as low as 83, 17%, so really close to that 80-20. And then instead of making that final leap to 80/20, we jump back up to 89 and 93. That's just an increase that I felt going forward, the town is not going to be able to absorb that. So that was the basis for my no vote, because I do feel that there are many important good things that are part of that contract, and it really pained me not to support it. But I still feel that I can't support it.
Would anyone else on the Budget Committee like to comment?
I'll echo Cindy's comments in that I do believe that there are a lot of good things in the contract, and I do appreciate where it's coming from, and I do appreciate the goals of the school board. And I fully understand why they voted 5-0, because it is a good contract from that perspective of retaining teachers and meeting the goals. But as a member of the Budget Committee, my responsibility and obligation is to represent the interests of the taxpayers as a whole. Is the contract going to be a good financial decision for this town? And when we look at the long-term, when we look at the healthcare costs that we routinely see, they're not small. They're not. I mean, the fact that we have had 2 good years, that's not enough to start a trend. It's great, it's awesome, but we cannot plan long-term based on 2 small good years. We've seen 20% increases, we've seen 15%, we've seen huge increases. Asking the taxpayers to absorb a much larger portion of that is not something that I believe is in the best interest of the town. I mean, it's not anything against the teachers. I love the teachers we've interacted with, but my obligation and responsibility is this a good financial decision for the town? And asking them to absorb that much more of an increase, I cannot say I believe is a good financial interest of the town. Thank you.
Anyone else from the Budget Committee? Mr. Reed or ma'am?
Phil Reed, 7 Forest Lane. A couple of comments. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on an excellent presentation. It certainly represented hours and hours and hours of work.
Thank you.
A little historic perspective, 100 years ago when I was on the school board, and we only had Griffin School, we negotiated a contract in 3 sessions. It's unheard of. You can't do it in one, other than when you do that, you're not negotiating in good faith. So we took 3 sessions to get a contract.
We had a few more than that.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Yeah,
Kathleen Follis, Mike Lane.
speak up again. Do it again.
Turn it down. Kathleen Follis, Mike Lane. I just wanted to comment that Kerry just said, I believe if I summarize a little bit, that we've been lucky in the last 2 years that we've had some good years under the green plan, but that historically it's cost us a good amount of money to be on the green plan. If the contract fails, my understanding is the teachers will then stay on the green plan. So that opens a can of worms of what cost will come that we don't know about, simply because we didn't pass the plan that will support shifting to the yellow plan that will eventually save the district money, most likely. And considering that 70%, I think you said, Christina, of districts have already transitioned to the yellow plan, to me that indicates that there is substantial savings to be had with a yellow plan health insurance, because once towns started shifting over, if they weren't seeing savings, we wouldn't have seen the majority of everyone else follow it. So I understand the concern. We don't have a lot of businesses, but I'm always hesitant to buy into that a whole lot, only because if you look at Derry, they have quadrupled the number of businesses of even most of the cohort towns, and their taxes are higher than probably all of ours, or at least a good chunk of ours. So I don't think that correlation is 100% lined up if we're looking at the cost of the school district health plan and the number of businesses. I do think tax-wise, we have to be careful. I'm always a proponent of that because we are a small town. But the reality is our school district makes up a big part of our budget for a reason, and our teachers are the main part of our school system. So we're going to see a higher cost with that piece because we make up, and in full disclosure, I do work for the district, but we make up the largest part of the schools. The other piece that makes me nervous is the Cadillac tax that's looming. So many businesses have shifted away from Cadillac plans because what that tax will do to the bottom line budget and the increase that will shift onto our taxpayers. No matter what, even if we turn around and say we split that Cadillac tax, it's still going to cost the taxpayer a lot of money. And that's where my concern is of saying no to this contract and then what's going to come with that.
Thank you. Mr. Bohm.
Thank you. Ralph Bohm, 6 Gifton Drive again. I don't think public employee benefits should exceed the private employee benefits who are paying for those public employee benefits. And for example, I know on my own, and I'm on Medicare, I am paying more than $3,600 a year for my medical insurance. So that's nearly more than twice as much and I believe other people on the private sector, not retired, are paying probably twice as much. Thank you.
Robin Corbeil, 4 Smith Court. I think Holly might have to back me up on this, but one of my concerns is we talk about the fear of what the unknown increase in insurance and putting that burden on taxpayers. One thing that isn't unknown that we do know is the Cadillac tax. It's coming, we know it. If we as a district continue to offer Cadillac plans, I believe that there are 20 to 25 employees who do not take insurance in this district. It saves the district $24,000 a year per employee for those employees not to take it. If you offer plans like this, and I'll be transparent, I'm one of them, right? I am going to change to this plan. You have an increase of almost $500,000 if those employees choose next year to move from their current private plan, which you're right, charges more than the school district plan does. That is a known fact. If those employees move, that's $500,000 more to our budget next year.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion on Article 2?
Just in terms of the Cadillac tax, the example given of going from $9,945 and the reduction to $9,162, that's still, both of those are within the realm of the of bumping into the Cadillac level. However, the Cadillac tax has been delayed till 2022 as of right now. So that would be when the end of this contract would be. So that's really not a significant issue talking about this contract here because it's been delayed till 2022.
Further discussion, ma'am?
Tiffany McKinnon, Burgess Drive. I'd just like to ask if we can all just think about our children in all of this. Our teachers are what teach our children. We graduate a lot of students going on to top-notch schools, and that's because of our teachers. So to retain the teachers that teach our children well, we need to give them a reason to stay. So please just think about that in your votes.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion on Article 2? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as written. Oh, was there another one?
I'm not sure an appropriate time to ask this, but I'd ask to close for this article for reconsideration at this time.
We have a motion to close this article for reconsideration. Do we have a second? It means that we can't talk about it again. We can't reopen it later on. It's done. So we had a second? We have a second, Bill Spencer. All in favor to close, anyone, all wishing to live with the motion to close for reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Article 2 is closed.
And then I have one more request.
Go ahead.
Could we please close Article 1 for reconsideration?
We have a motion on the table to close Article 1 for reconsideration. Do we have a second? Bill Spencer seconds it. All in favor closing Article 1 for reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Article 1's closed. So now we're discussing Article 3. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $28,490 to hire a part-time enrichment tutor including salary and benefits at Litchfield Middle School to support high-achieving learners. If approved, this appropriation will be included in the operating budget in subsequent years. The estimated tax impact is 3 cents. This is recommended by the School Board 500. It's recommended by the Budget Committee 710. Mr. Brian Bork to speak to the article.
Thank you. Basically, this tutor position is to support our higher learning students. Currently, we have no support or services for the high achievers. This person will provide enrichment for both in and outside of the classroom. And this tutor will also collaborate with classroom teachers in development and evaluation and revisions of the enrichment program. That's it.
Further discussion, questions on Article 3? None? We'll hear it on the ballot. We'll see it on the ballot as written. Thank you. Article 4. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $28,490 to hire a part-time math tutor, including salary and benefits at Litchfield Middle School to support struggling and resistant learners? If approved, this appropriation will be included in the operating budget in subsequent years. The estimated tax impact is 3 cents. This is recommended by the School Board 500. It's recommended by the Budget Committee 710. Mr. Bork.
Thank you. Again, currently we have no dedicated person to fill this position. The support will occur both in and outside of the classroom, and will provide resources to teachers and help support students in the classroom.
Further discussion, questions on Article 4? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as written. Article 5. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund established in 2004, with this sum to come from the June 30 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1st of this year? The estimated tax impact is $0. It's recommended by the School Board 500. It's recommended by the Budget Committee 800. Mr. Bork.
Thank you. I have an amendment to this article. Do I do it now or after I?
No, you can do either one.
All right, I'll do it now.
Well, let's get a second for it. What's the amendment first?
To change the wording from the sum of $100,000 to the sum of up to $100,000.
Do we have a second? We have a second, Mr. Reed. Further discussion, sir. Go ahead.
This is very simply that the way that the article is written, it's for $100,000, and unfortunately, if the unassigned fund balance ends up being less than that, then no monies can be put into this fund.
Further discussion on the proposed amendment? All in favor of the proposed amendment to change the wording from the sum of $100,000 to the sum of up to $100,000, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, the ayes have it. We now have an amended Article 5. Further discussion on Article 5, the amended Article 5.
Thank you. Just to give some numbers for those I'm sure will ask. Right now in that budget reserve is $184,000. From that, there are still outstanding amounts that will be withdrawn. The first is $31,500, and that's for the LMS drainage pipe that need to be replaced. There are still costs associated with that, where guardrails or some type of fencing will need to be in place on the right-hand side of that structure in order for either children or vehicles to fall over. We also have quotes right now at approximately $25,000 for a heating issue at LMS in the office area. The heat basically can't be controlled, and at times it gets quite warm in there. So it's a unit that needs to be replaced, and right now the quotes are approximately $25,000. And with that, there's also a little bit of money that will be coming back from GMS from when we redid the vestibules. There's a couple $1,000s approximately coming back into that fund. And that's it.
Further discussion on Article 5 as amended? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as amended. Article 6. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to permanently name the Campbell High School auditorium after Philip K. Martin in honor of his service to Campbell High School? This is not / recommended by the school board vote. This article has not yet been voted by the school board. Mrs. McDonald.
On January 9th of 2019, the school board approved a policy for the naming of facilities in our district. This policy involves a proposal process and an approval process. The Phil Martin Naming Committee has gone through the proposal process and has now received approval from the school board to put this forth on a school warrant article.
So how does that get addressed? Do we amend the article now to indicate that it's recommended or not?
It was recommended to be put forth on a warrant article. We have yet to vote
Okay.
on the warrant.
Further discussion on Article 6?
I have something to say as a
Sure.
taxpayer. Elizabeth McDonald, 46 Natticook Ave.
Hi.
My name is Elizabeth McDonald, and I was fortunate to know Phil Martin as an educator, a coworker, and a friend. Phil was one of the first people I met when I started working in the Litchfield School District. Upon entering CHS, I was a bit nervous, for it was the first time I had been in a high school in 25 years. As I walked into the main entrance, I was greeted by a man holding a guitar, singing songs in the hallway. That man, Phil Martin, welcomed me into the school like he was welcoming me into his home. For those of you who didn't know Phil, he was a founding member of Campbell High School. He helped design the music department and the auditorium. Phil was not just a band teacher, he also started our vocal and chorus programs from the ground up. At Campbell, Phil established the Tri-M Music Student Honorary Chapter and Friends of the Music Booster Club. He led our students to New York, New Orleans, Florida, Europe and Canada, and Hawaii. He was the heart of our music department. He was awarded many awards throughout his years of teaching and is well known and respected by music educators across the state. Phil was also willing to help out and participate in town activities, whether it was a play, a concert, a town meeting, or a middle school performance. You would always find him in the back of the auditorium, making sure the lights and the sounds were just right. He even made sure that our Campbell High School band played at our Memorial Day ceremony every single year. Phil is missed tremendously by staff and students, which was evident by the touching speeches given to our school board over the past 4 months. Phil Martin left an indelible mark on this school. He made a difference in student lives. His happy nature was contagious, and his dedication to our students was beyond commendable. He encompassed our core values, and he lived them every day.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion, Article 6, Mr. Spencer.
Bill Spencer, Cranberry Lane. This article, though, is a little bit confusing to me. If the voters vote yes on it, what does that mean that the school board must do? As I read it, it says they must take a vote. Doesn't mean they have to vote to name it. Am I correct? My lawyer?
Please.
I don't understand the question, I'm
Well,
sorry.
it's confusing. I agree.
My question is, what this article says is, shall the district vote to permanently name the Campbell High School auditorium? They can take a vote, and they could say, no, that's taking a vote.
Oh, you think the warrant article is written incorrectly. The policy that we approved means it has to go before the voters before final approval. If the voters do not approve this to be named after Philip Martin, then it will not be named after Philip Martin this year.
If the voters vote yes on this, must the school board vote
Again?
to name the auditorium?
Can we get representation?
I'm asking the lawyer.
I don't have an answer, obviously.
Because this tells them that they must take a vote.
Is there a wording issue here, or?
No, there's no wording problem here. Most of the articles on the warrant ask, shall the district vote to do whatever? So that's not a problem. It is an advisory article. It's up to the school board, regardless of how this vote turns out on March 12th, whether or how they will name the auditorium. But the wording of the article is not a problem.
So it's
Okay,
not binding at all?
I think you answered my question.
That's correct.
Sorry, Bill. Okay. So further discussion on Article 6? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as written. We're at the point of the session, we call it the seventh inning stretch. At this point in time, I'd like to invite anyone in the audience to the microphone to discuss topics that are otherwise not directly associated with any of the warrant articles presented this evening. Generally, it's a good time to comment to board members or to congratulate somebody in town that has done a great accomplishment. So the mic is open for 5 minutes. I'd like to introduce Ms. Couture.
Thank you. Many of you may know, maybe you don't know, this is my last year on the Budget Committee. I will be stepping back, but I wanted to make sure to recognize somebody that, especially over the last several years, has made a huge impact on the ability for the Budget Committee to function effectively and efficiently, and that is our minute taker, Michelle Flynn. Without Michelle, we would not have accurate minutes. Without Michelle, Michelle takes care of all those details. She puts the notices in the paper, she reserves the rooms, she makes sure the cable committee knows that we need certain dates, and she's really, especially as chair, she's my right-hand woman. She takes care of us and makes sure everything runs smoothly. So I do have a presentation for her, and I want to thank her for all her support of Litchfield and the Budget Committee especially. I know.
Now get back to work. Mr. Bork, do you have something too?
Thank you. As Cindy just said, that after this year, and after this deliberation, this is her last one. Cindy has spent close to 20 years between school boards, budget committees, and God can only imagine how many hours and days and effort she's put into those two committees. And she's going to be greatly missed by this town. What I'd like to do is, from the school board, is award her the Empowering Excellence in Education Award.
Good afternoon. Well, I think it's still morning. Much like last week at the town deliberative session, the town presented Cindy with a beautiful plaque, and in honor of her service to the town and the school district and the community of Litchfield. And the school board would like to do the same. So in the spirit of saying goodbye to Cindy, we would like to honor her with a little gift from the school board.
I just want to encourage everybody. It takes time, it takes effort, but there's nothing more rewarding than working for your community and working for your neighbors and your friends and everybody. Please get involved. I look at, about 75, 100 people here. There are so many people that care in this community. Please get involved and sit on these committees. Come to the meetings. If you can't sit in a committee, we all have personal lives. Come to the meetings. Send an email. We really need your input, whether it be the selectmen, the school board, the budget committee, or any of the other committees in town. We need to know what you think, not just today, not just on deliberative session, but every week, every month, every year. So it's been a privilege to serve Litchfield. I'm not going far, but I do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Yes, sir.
Rob Myers, 13 Nesson Cake. I'd like to make a motion to close discussion on Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6.
We have a motion to close Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Bork. All in favor of closing Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Article 3, 4, 5, and 6 are closed. We can proceed with Article 7. It's a petition article. Shall the school board present to next year's annual meeting an article adopting the provisions of RSA 32:5-B, which could implement a tax cap whereby the Budget Committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than a certain dollar amount or percentage. This is not recommended by the school board. 040. Ms. Carrie Douglas to speak to the article.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, I want to clear up a couple of misunderstandings regarding this warrant article. It does not result in an immediate tax cap. The school board would have 9 months from the approval, assuming it passes, to review and analyze data before bringing forth a proposal for consideration on next year's ballot. The warrant article includes the same wording as the warrant that was brought forth by the Board of Selectmen in 2015, with the exception that school board has been replaced with, substituted for Board of Selectmen. That warrant was approved by a vote of 799 to 298, or 73% of the votes. The wording of this article is as prescribed by the RSA. And why has this warrant article been brought forward? This warrant article attempts to start the process of bringing the school budget in line with the town budget, introducing consistency. And as everybody knows, consistency is very important to me because I advocate it consistently. And since the town cap was approved, I have received multiple inquiries from residents asking why the school does not have a tax cap. And over the course of those years, I've spoken with individual school board members, encouraging them to bring forth this warrant. The outcome of those discussions has been clear by the lack of a proposal that has been presented. And so the RSA allows for a petition warrant article to initiate the discussion when the governing board declines to do so. Why am I bringing forth this warrant article? Because people have expressed an interest in starting the conversation, and I support the process that allows them to do so. I've spoken to people who have voiced their concerns about standing here because some anxious about the possibility of public speaking, and who can blame them? I know I'm not a fan. But others were, quite frankly, concerned about being labeled by members of the school board or the community as being anti-school. And having a father and a grandmother who has participated my entire life in local politics, and a father-in-law who's been involved in state politics for over 40 years, I personally thought their concerns were overblown until I watched Wednesday night's school board meeting, where the chairman of the school board expressed his intent to intimidate the signers of this petition in this public forum because they dared bring forward a proposal with which he disagrees. So this leads to another misconception that needs to be addressed. The signing of this petition in no way indicates a lack of support for our teachers. And I hope that the teachers with whom my family has interacted with understand that my support of this proposal is in no way a reflection of my opinion of their work. Some people signed because they are concerned about the rate at which their taxes are increasing, and some simply want to start the conversation about spending priorities. The signed petition is publicly available, and many of the members of the school board are familiar with many of the names on that list, and they include people who volunteer in our schools, who donate their time, energy, and money to support the teachers that serve their kids because they believe in the mission of these schools. It is disturbing that the chairman would suggest that their support for this warrant indicates a lack of support for the schools when their very actions indicate otherwise. Personally, I support the conversation that this petition, if approved, would initiate. If a tax cap is unworkable or infeasible, the school board has time to bring forward a logical and fact-driven argument that supports that position. Convince us that every dollar that is raised for the school is being spent wisely and in accordance with a plan that maximizes value. Every year, the school board returns several $100,000, and I appreciate that the administrators work very careful in their spending. But if we do not need those funds, then we should not be raising them. There are members of the Budget Committee who have grown comfortable with sizable cushions built into the budgets, and the discussion of a tax cap would instead encourage them to prioritize budget recommendations. I support the opportunity for the school board to engage the community in this discussion because the discussion is occurring in the community, and it is time for the school board to join in it. So, if you would like to ask the signers of this petition to stand and identify themselves, I can't stop people from doing that request. But the action is meaningless unless we ask why each person signed this petition. I'm concerned about the message it would send for people who want to engage in activities or support positions that may not be considered approved by certain members. To me, it is incredibly shameful that the first response was intimidation rather than engagement. So in conclusion, this measure is intended as an effort to facilitate a substantive discussion between the community and the school board regarding spending priorities. Support for this measure is in no way demonstrates a lack of support for the schools. Instead, it demonstrates a desire to maximize the value of the tax dollars that are entrusted to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, you first.
Carrie, I want to go to one of your first points, consistency. That's what you used when you said you want a tax cap, right? Consistency. Let me read a few numbers to you. This is since the tax cap that you voted for the town. Their budget has gone up 6.67% in 2017, 7.98% in 2018, 8.74% next year. School budget, same years, 1.78, 2.36, 2.34. I'm not sure what consistency you're looking for. Increased taxes? Then I want to talk about the unassigned fund balance. You mentioned that also. We return the monies not spent to the town. The town does not. The town collects extra taxes, they put it in their fund, or they spend it. We give it back. We also have a budget committee that you're part of that goes line by line every budget. We hand you the budget, it's then yours, you pick it apart, you make your cuts, then it's presented to the public. It's pretty fair, pretty transparent. I'm not certain what else you're looking for. I just want to touch base on a few things that would happen on the tax cap. And I'll use this year's numbers as an example. And I'll just use the 2% tax cap. If you had imposed a 2% tax cap, I would have your attention.
You can speak. You're not directing it to her. You're directing it to the body.
It's true. So we would lose, if we had a 2% tax cap this year, using this year's numbers, we would lose $177,000. Keep in mind that most everything in the school budget is mandated by the state. So now we're down $177,000. We also have to include our warrant articles. One of the warrant articles is for $397,000 for a teacher contract. The other two are the part-time tutor positions. We're talking in the sum of $600,000. We'd have to hand you a budget for next year, $600,000 less than what we've placed in there, stating what our needs are.
I think you're confused regarding how the process works.
Go ahead.
Because one, it's a tax cap on the tax increase. It is not on the budget increase. So yes, the budget in the town has increased, but it's always been within. They chose to use a limited amount. They could have. They subscribed a set amount by which the tax could, the amount of revenue that could be raised.
And what's
or
that?
they could
Can you tell me what that amount is?
174,000 something, or $174,000 even.
175.
Right. So that is the number that was prescribed and recommended by the Board of Selectmen following their review of the information, and that was the number with which they felt comfortable. I am asking for simply the discussion, and a lot of the points you just made may be relevant to that discussion. I am not asking for your vote currently. I'm asking for a discussion. And I think that with all the information that is available, you very well may convince people in this town that a tax cap is not the way to go. But until we have that discussion, there will be people continuing to ask for it. So until we address the conversations that are currently having, you're going to continue to have them. So rather than engage, I would encourage the school board to consider the opportunity to engage the public in discussions that are already occurring in the effort to either win support or put it to rest. But either way, trying to squash the conversation is not going to prevent it from happening. So again, it's a simple request to have it move forward. Now, as for all the numbers on the school board, it asks for a set number of increase or percentage of increase. I mean, we just saw, was it the town of Pelham amended a petition warrant article from 3% to 30%. There is no statement of a maximum amount that the school board could request bringing forward. But ultimately, and as for the unassigned fund balances, the town needs a sizable amount because they have to. It's my understanding that they help the school board with their payroll management. So yes, they need to have money on hand. Otherwise, the very teachers in this building won't get paid. So there is an opportunity for a discussion. Yes, that is the way it works. The town front floats the money. So, but again, this is not saying a tax cap is the right thing. It is saying it's a time for the conversation.
Ms. Couture.
I'd like to make a motion to amend. Shall the school board study the impact of an article adopting the provisions of RSA 32.5-B, which could implement a tax cap whereby the Budget Committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than a certain dollar amount or percentage. It changes the wording from present to next year's annual meeting to study the impact of.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Give me a name. I didn't hear you. Susan Jositis. Thank you. Yeah. Please discuss. Go ahead.
That change wording, I think, makes it a little less scary, and it actually does what Carrie is suggesting, which is to study it and discuss it and see what impact it would have on the school district.
Further discussion on the proposal to amend Article 7? Mr. Spencer?
I think this amendment is just a delaying amendment. It's pretty obvious what the school board would come up with. I'm not in favor of the amendment whatsoever. I think it ought to go to a vote just like we did with the town. It was successful with the town. The people said they'd like to see a tax cap. And then when we came to vote on it, there was discussion on what it should be, and that eventually passed. The Budget Committee the first year had a problem working with it. This current budget, they apparently did not have a problem working with the tax cap. So I think this amendment really is just watering down what we'd like to see put before the voters.
Further discussion on the proposal to amend Article 7? And I'll read it again before we do anything. No more discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the table to amend Article 7 to read, shall the school board study the impact of an article adopting the provisions of RSA 32:5-B, which could implement a tax cap whereby the Budget Committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than a certain dollar amount or of percentage. Those in favor of the proposed amendment to Article 7, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Oh, man. Can we get for all the ayes, please raise your hand, please. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start from this end of that. I'll do you last. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Go back around. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Those opposed, raise your hand, please. Oh, you guys just speak louder than Yeah, by voice vote. Okay, so we now have an amended Article 7. Further discussion on the amended Article 7.
Can I clarify a point that Mr. Spencer brought up, and again, Kerry Douglas talking about consistency in the tax cap?
Yeah.
Bill asked a question, do we have a problem getting a budget under the tax cap? That was a question you asked, right, Bill? If the Budget Committee had any problems approving a budget within the tax cap. And the tax cap, as Kerry Douglas has already said, is $175,000 per year, correct? It is. Kerry, do you know what the dollar amount is that the town budget went up this year? I haven't heard that.
Ralph?
Yeah.
Significantly more than that. However, how much did the revenues go up? And that is what the foundation of the tax cap is, a resulting increase in revenue. So how much additional revenue is allowed to be raised by taxation? That is what it controls. I did not word it. I'm not a legislator who wrote it. I'm living within the rules.
Okay.
So you may not like the rules, but I'm not the one who set them.
Okay, so we have an amended Article 7, and we're discussing how it reads. We're not voting on it tonight, okay? Do we have any further discussion on the amended Article 7? I don't know which one was up first. I think he took...
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, he's closer to me, so he's up. Go ahead.
Why, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frank Byron, 8 Maldacourt. I'm looking at Article 7, and below it says 3/5 vote is required. Why are we requiring a 3/5 ballot vote on an article that is at best advisory?
You know, I don't see that. I don't see that on mine.
3/5 would be required if you wanted to pass the actual tax cap. That's correct, but this doesn't pass the tax cap.
So the slide is incorrect? Yeah. The slide is incorrect. It's not a 3/5 required.
Next year.
Everyone agree?
Yes.
This is not a 3/5 required vote. It's a standard majority vote, right?
Correct.
So my question then to you is this part and parcel of Article 7, the 3/5 requirement that's worded here, or does that have to be amended out?
Is that in what was submitted? No. It is not in what was submitted. It was a mistype in what was given to you, sir.
Only me?
Just you. Mr. Bohm.
Thank you. I just want to clarify something. The book said I was a selectman, budget committee, and school board for 22 years. The selectmen cannot spend more than what their budget says, just like the school board. They return any leftover money to the fund balance, which is the same thing the school board does. The selectmen can keep X amount of money in that fund balance, specified by amounts the DRA says. And anything over that, they have to give a good reason for keeping that, or it gets returned to the taxpayer. So just want to clarify things. They cannot spend it unless they put it in a warrant article saying this will be paid for by the fund balance. So I just want to clarify stuff.
Good clarification. Thank you, Ralph. Ms. Couture.
Cindy Couture, 41 Stark Lane. So what I want to make sure everybody understands is that what this could potentially do is it restricts the budget committee. It does not restrict the school board from bringing forth a budget that exceeds that. It does not restrict the taxpayer from voting in a budget that exceeds that. All it does is restrict the budget committee from presenting a budget that they feel is the appropriate budget. In terms of how it has impacted the town, I was opposed to it when it was presented to the town, and I remain opposed to it even stronger for the school district. The first year of the tax cap, the budget committee spent about an hour trying to come up with a motion to reduce enough money to bring it under the tax cap. Every time we made a motion, it failed because the budget was so tight, we felt that there was no place we could come under the tax cap. We did ended up assuming that somebody wouldn't take health care, and that was how we got below the tax cap. Last year, we had several articles that the Budget Committee could not recommend, and we made sure it was understood because it would bring it over the tax cap. In other words, there were articles that we felt were valuable for the town, but because of the restrictions of the tax cap, we could not recommend them. It does, and this year, the Budget Committee did not have a problem coming into the tax cap because revenues are up in the town, our valuation is up, building is happening, the economy is good. However, the revenue is very different on the school district side because, as you see, the state now is downshifting costs to the district. They had a huge loss of revenue this year. So when you couple that with things that are required by federal or state law, it was interesting, it was told to me one of the first years I got in the Budget Committee that technically there are no laws requiring town government. The only thing the town is required to do is have cemeteries. However, a school district is required by federal and state law to have a whole host of things that we provide our students. And so when you couple those federal and state requirements with downshifting revenues, I think you're setting yourselves up for you're setting the Budget Committee up, because technically everybody else can do what they want. You're setting the Budget Committee up for a problem and preventing them from being able to offer the best value and the best budget to the community.
Thank you. Mr. Spencer.
What is the wording of the article?
Right now? It's up here. Want me to read it?
As amended, yeah.
Article 7 is, shall the school board study the impact of an article adopting the provisions of RSA 32:5-B, which could implement a tax cap whereby the Budget Committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior year's fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than a certain dollar amount of percentage.
Okay, so it's just to study the impact of the RSA, not to implement the RSA.
Yeah, correct.
Basically.
Study the impact of the article adopting, yeah.
Okay, so again, it pushes out for another year then, until somebody comes in with a proper article that can't be amended. Because the school board obviously isn't going to recommend anything.
Further discussion on Article 7? As amended. None? Hearing none, you'll find it on the ballot as amended. So before we close, I'd like to remind everyone that, number one, please return your pink ballots. You can leave them on the table out front or up on stage here. The warrant articles discussed tonight will appear on the ballot as written or, if amended, as amended. Voting day is on March 12th, Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., not 8 p.m., not 7:30 p.m., 7 p.m. With that, would someone like to make a motion to close the meeting today? Seconded? Anybody? All in favor, say aye. Have a good night. Thank you.